Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Following breaking news as of 12:01, the government is beginning the process of shutting down. The Senate adjourning for the night after Congress tried and failed a last-minute attempt to pass a funding plan. The White House Budget Office sending a memo to federal agencies to start executing their plans for an orderly shutdown. In a new report, the Congressional Budget Office estimating the shutdown will lead to the furlough of about 750,000 federal employees. Workers got a memo earlier telling them of a possible furlough, and that memo included a message putting the blame on Democrats. Republicans push for averting a shutdown by passing what's known as a clean continuing resolution. That CR, though, already passed the House and would have kept the government funded at current levels for a few more weeks while the negotiations continued. But Democrats say they are trying to prevent a looming health care crisis. They're calling for Medicaid cuts to be rolled back and for Obamacare subsidies to be extended. Both parties now pointing the finger of blame.
24 pages long, funds the government till November the 21st, at which time you have the same leverage then that you have right now, and we have until the end of the year to fix the ACA credit issue. And we're happy, as I said yesterday, and I've said on multiple occasions, to sit down with you to do that.
Leader Thune did not come once to me and say, is this bill acceptable? What do you want in the bill? So they call it clean. We call it extremely partisan. Not one discussion, House or Senate, between the two leaders. That is not how you negotiate.
Millions of Americans will feel the impact of this shutdown. Paychecks will be stopped for more than 2 million federal employees, but essential workers, including TSA staff and air traffic controllers, will be expected to continue working with no pay. And there will also likely be pauses to public services, including access to public parks, as well as museums. The federal government is required to provide back pay once the government is funded again, but federal contractors are not compensated for that missed time. The last shutdown was during President Trump's first term. That shutdown lasted 34 days and was the longest in history. This time, President Trump is threatening to make cuts permanent.
We can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. Because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that.
Not clear who's going to blink first. Now let's get to Capitol Hill.
Yeah, not clear who's going to blink first at all. Why are we surprised? Today's date, October the 1st, 2025, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most, Will Buchanan. On the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we are a news podcast. We do pride ourselves on citing the most reputable source with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, Newsmax, wherever you get your extreme left or extreme right views from. We simply do not do that. At the same time, guys, we do try to maintain a sense of professionalism, but let's be honest, words fly. At the same time, guys, we do show a lot of footage that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, let's get into it. Both sides are basically pointing at each other and saying it's the other person's fault and the government is shut down. As you saw in the video, it does affect a lot of workers, those that work in parks and recreational areas. But again, it always ceases to amaze me that a few things that need to be said. The fact that the White House is already beginning the spin machine of we're blaming the Democrats. Here's a problem. And I say it's a problem because it is. Republicans hold the House, hold the Senate, and you hold the presidency. You hold the executive branch. You have a Supreme Court that is so far leaning right, the supports need to be replaced. What I'm getting at here is Republicans for the last year, or I should say for this entire year, have run roughshod. They have pushed through bills that they wanted. They have pushed through things that they have successfully gotten things to roll back. You've gotten two, not one, but two landmark cases affected in each way. I mean, the Roe versus Wade and the affirmative action and the college acceptance of affirmative action, which led to the death of DEI positions and personnel and employees across the U.S. They've done a lot. But yet, whenever it comes to government shutdown, again, the government has to give its own budget in order to keep the government running. If they don't, the government shuts down. Republicans always want to say to Democrats, well, they didn't want to vote for this. You have majority in the House and the Senate. You've ramrodded everything else through that you wanted to get through. But yet, when it comes to the budget, all of a sudden, the Democrats, who don't have majority in the House, don't have majority in the Senate. The Supreme Court might as well just say we are bought and sold by the GOP, and you want to blame them. It is amazing to me how one party with absolute power in Congress will blame a party that has little to no power at all and say this is the reason why everybody's not getting paid. But here's the one thing that I do want to point out that needs to be pointed out. You do know during a shutdown, yes, federal workers are not getting paid. Those that are deemed essential jobs, remember that during the COVID pandemic, essential workers, that didn't get paid more, still expected to show up to work, had to literally put their lives on the line when COVID was still in that we did not know a lot phase. And folks were getting sick, beds were being taken, oxygen tanks were being used. It was a scary time. And yet medical personnel, TSA, air traffic controllers, just to name a few, all deemed essential workers, to where we had to have somebody there in order to keep civilization as we know it to keep going. Those folks were not paid more. Those folks were not given the due that they should have been given. At the same time, here we are again, because just like in the article before this one, article before I started talking, the last shutdown occurred under Taco. Amazing how history repeats itself. Even more so, the thing I wanted to point out is that during a shutdown, the House and Senate still get their paychecks. If you are a representative of the House, if you're a representative of the Senate, if you're a senator or representative, you're still getting paid. Even during a shutdown. Oh, yes, they still, because, again, Article 1, Section 6 of the Constitution, which states the senators and representatives shall receive a compensation for their services to be ascertained by law and paid out of the Treasury of the United States. Yes, so in the event of a shutdown, senators and representatives are covered because they still get paid. Now, also in this article, there are some Democrats that believe that's not right, because some constituents who are actual federal workers and employed by the government are not getting paid at this time. And like I said before, some of them are furloughed because they're considered deemed essential. So now there are some Democrats, Senator Andy Kim out of New Jersey being one of them, wants to change that law. And good for them. Although it's so crazy that the way it should be in the government shutdown, because again, you have the GOP and you have the Democrats. Here's my thing. And I know it may not happen in my lifetime, but it'd be nice to say otherwise. If there is a government shutdown, how about those working in government, specifically in the political parties that are running this country? How about they don't get paid? How about their insurance benefits get cut off? How about all the rights and privileges of them holding those offices suddenly gets halted? Everybody else, the federal workers, contractors, they still get paid out of the Treasury, the same way that senators and representatives are still getting paid. Because again, nobody wants to, when it comes to working for a government that is shut down, I do not see, and I'm going to be quite honest, I do not see a lot of motivation from the senators and representatives because they're still getting paid. It's like, we got mine, we got ours, get yours. Oh, we're covered. And that's what it feels like to me. They're simply saying, oh, we're covered. You guys figure it out. Because again, I feel for those who are federal contractors, who are government workers, because now your livelihood is again hanging. Because let's be honest, for a lot of us, we're all 1 or 2 paychecks away from being in poverty, from being out on the street. And now, because you have one side that has absolute power, is going to blame another side that doesn't have anything at all, because some folks still watch Fox News, even though Fox News is not a real news station, it's just an entertainment network, and will believe them. And on White House Gov with Laura Loomer, the White House's mean girl, who looks like she ate white privilege and now it expired and her body is unable to contain it. The point I'm getting at is here, they are already beginning the spin cycle on this story. And what Democrats could do, again, I am saying this because the midterms are next year. Democrats could turn around and sit there and say, hey, Republicans have total power in Congress. And they were able to pass bills that we didn't want. That big, beautiful bullshit bill that Taco wanted, they pushed it through without us. So if they're able to sit there and push through this bill that nobody wanted without us, that had these tariffs, that causes inflation without us, why all of a sudden do you need us to pass something that you want to get through? Again, it just seems like whenever it comes to the budget in Congress, I just kind of feel like it's a little bit hypocritical that we are called upon ourselves, the IRS, to balance our books while the government can sit there and just, play Monopoly with theirs and they're not checked. But hey, until senators and representatives actually feel the same burden that these federal governors feel, I just don't see that they have enough inclination to actually get a bill funded, because again, Republicans want to cut folks and kick those folks off Medicare and Medicaid. While again, the Democrats are doing the only thing they can. They are pretty much standing their ground and saying, no, we want to keep the Obamacare and health premiums in place because they are saving millions of Americans' lives. We'll see who blinks first. But speaking of things who blinks first, never sober Secretary of Defense, Defense Secretary, because I will never call him Secretary of War. I think that is I think that's something that somebody that plays Call of Duty a little bit too much wants to call themselves. But anyway, Defense Secretary never sober Pete Hegseth decided sometime last week, I want to call every uniformed general and high-ranking officer, we're talking from the 1 to 5-star range, into a room because I want to have a meeting. And again, for a guy who has little to no military experience, he did serve in the National Guard. No disrespect to the National Guard, but he served in the National Guard. And again, I need to remind people before I play this video, Pete Hegseth has limited combat experience. He's never led a group or a platoon. He's never reached a command to where he was able to command officers. He's never strategized or deployed any type of organizational structure or things of that nature. He's a guy that enlisted and he served. Okay, cool. How the frack are you going to tell a room of experienced men that have more medals than he does, and he's going to tell them this is how he wants to run things? Hence why I sat there and said before I start this video, of all the meetings, this could have been a freaking email.
The topic was shrouded in secrecy beforehand and security was tight. Some of the nation's most senior military leaders ordered to board buses at 3:30 a.m. and then wait hours for the event to begin, according to defense officials.
This speech today is about people, and it's about culture.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth telling generals and admirals who'd flown in from all over the world to get on board with a series of changes.
But if the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign.
The new standards include new grooming rules that prohibit beards and a requirement that everyone in combat roles must meet the highest male standard for physical fitness, a change that could impact women in uniform.
If that means no women qualify for some combat jobs, so be it.
He also plans to overhaul equal opportunity programs and the role of the Inspector General at a time when the Secretary himself awaits the release of an IG review on whether he shared sensitive information on Signal, an unclassified server, an accusation Hegseth denies. New recruits could also see changes, lifting restrictions on how far drill instructors can go.
They can swear, and yes, they can put their hands on recruits. This does not mean they can be reckless or violate the law, but they can use tried and true methods to motivate, new recruits.
Retired Lieutenant General Mark Hertling is concerned about the impact all of it may have on troops.
To hear the kinds of things that came out of the secretary's mouth shows that he doesn't really respect them as contributors to the combat arms or fighting our nation's wars.
President Trump today endorsing Hegseth's speech and repeating his ultimatum.
If you don't like what I'm saying, you can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future.
In the president's remarks, which were highly political, he also defended the use of troops in American cities.
I told Pete we should use some of these dangerous cities as training grounds for our military.
The military leaders in the auditorium showed little reaction to the remarks today, politely clapping at the end of each speech. As officers in uniform, they are prohibited from endorsing political comments.
Yes, they're prevented from endorsing political comments. So, yes, I know for a lot of people, I'm sorry, I got to say this. This could have been an email. And like I said before, imagine you were told within less than a 24-hour notice to be at this location, and you guys saw the room of experienced command officers and generals. And again, what impacts me more is that a guy who only served in the National Guard is going to tell a room that has possibly, and I'm just estimating this, more than 100 years of combat experience in that single room alone. You're going to tell them how you believe how the armed forces should be run. But I just want to point this out for a second because this is a little suspect. What I mean by suspect, this part right here, is that these are part of the rules that he wanted. New grooming rules that prohibit beards. Everyone in combat roles must meet the highest male standard for physical fitness. And then, yes, that could impact women in uniform. Now, I have already sat there and said on a previous podcast episode that Never Sober Pete Hegseth does not endorse women in uniform. He does not endorse women in armed forces. He believes that women's roles, and I can look this up and I will defend this to the very death. He believes women's roles should be in the home, in the kitchen. And if you ever ask me, I will gladly show you the footage where he said it. He does not believe that women belong on the combat field because he sees them as a liability. Hence why he's sitting there saying everyone in combat roles must meet the highest physical male standard for physical fitness. And I'm going to be honest with you guys. I got nothing against a woman serving in the armed forces, but to put her up against the same standards as a male is honestly bullshit. In the same sense that Never Sober Pete Hegseth has also said that we need to eliminate equal opportunity hires. Hence why, what did he call it? Oh, yes, overhauling equal opportunity programs, meaning he wants to get rid of them. He wants to, because again, this is the part where I need to understand this, because everybody remember former Armed Forces Joint Chief Staff, CQ Brown, he had him fired. Former head of the Navy, he had her fired. All because, and again, Pete Hegseth, slightly racist, hates women in armed forces. And you can tell because he got rid of a black man who was literally the head Joint Chiefs of Staff and got rid of a woman who was literally the commander of the U.S. Naval Forces. All while, and again, this is the part that kills me, with the unmitigated gall that he has, that he wants to get to a warrior ethos, which I'm going to be honest with you guys, the first time I heard it, I'm like, what the frack is a warrior ethos that he's talking about outside of his book that's bombing? Well, for all those that don't know, I just want to say this really quickly. This is the warrior ethos, again, from the U.S. Army. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. That's the warrior ethos for the U.S. Army. Now, granted, each branch of the military has their own, but that's the warrior ethos. Now, keep in mind, guys, this is coming from the same Never Sober Pete Hegseth, who is still under possible investigation because, guys, remember we talked about this? Remember when he sat there and gave out war plans via text message and a certain reporter on a certain newspaper got that too? Yeah, that's still an investigation. on whether or not he shared sensitive information on a text messaging device when it's obvious that he did. And at the same time, folks, he's got the unmitigated gall to sit there and say, if you don't like it, you can resign. How very Hitler of you. Because again, this is all the 2025 playbook. This is all education, communication, armed forces. For somebody that does not know that Project 2025 exists, he is following the playbook like a freaking T. And I feel for all those armed servicemen. I feel for all them. Because not only did you got taken from your position, had to hurry up and get here because the defense secretary called you, only to hear the load of crap between him and Taco. And again, these standards must be clean shaven. You can't have beards. Must meet physical standards for males. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't judge anybody that's in the LGBTQ. I don't. We accept all here at How the Frack We Got Here. I think Pete Hegseth needs to have a coming out party. The reason why, he likes his soldiers clean shaven, no beards. He likes them physically fit, although he himself is not in shape. At the same time, our current idiot in chief is literally three Big Macs away from being diabetic. I mean, you can tell because right now the white privilege is just oozing out of him, and he's slowly transitioning to Jabba the Hutt right before our eyes. Sir, I think you need to admit that you have a type, and that type for Pete Hegseth probably is on Grindr. The only reason I point that out is because every time there's a Republican convention, Grindr goes down in the same area. We're just saying Republicans. It's okay. It's okay to like what you like. Just don't be in denial. Especially for a guy that wants nothing but clean-shaven, physically fit men that he believes fits the warrior ethos, which sounds more like a Grindr preference. I don't judge. But what I do judge on, because I do want to stay on the Secretary of Defense for a second, is that he sat there and said that Wounded Knee soldiers can keep their Medal of Honor. Because again, those Medal of Honor awards were given out in 2024, which was killing me because for all those that don't know about Wounded Knee was basically the massacre of South Dakota's Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, to where, they try to sit there and say, well, 20 soldiers from the 7th Cavalry Regiment decided to attack an Native American reservation at the time. And were given medals. Historically, someone looked at this and said, no, that's not right. It wasn't an act of heroism. They went on a massacre. To which a lot of people, including myself, when you're a fan of history, you simply go, okay, 250 Native Americans, including women and children of the Sioux tribe, again, were killed. And yet, Medal of Honors were given to 20 soldiers from that regiment, to where once people looked at it and goes, oh no, this was effing terrible. Why in the world are we acknowledging this as an act of heroism? Well, again, Hardly Sober Pete Hegseth sat there and said, oh no, they should keep their medals. And for all those that are probably wondering why we're talking about this, this happened back honestly. Keep in mind, this actual massacre happened in 1908. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It didn't happen in 1908. It actually happened in 1890. My bad. So people are wondering why the frack is a defense secretary in 2025 trying to defend terrorism that happened in 1890. Because again, when it comes to Pete Hegseth, he believes his warrior ethos is the way to go. And what is so scary about a National Guardsman telling a more experienced armed serviceman what to do? They unfortunately have no choice, because until they all, let me take that back. They do have a choice, but I don't see them turning on the Secretary. I don't see them turning on the Secretary of Defense. I don't see the Joint Chiefs of Staff and all of them saying, you know what? Hell no. We don't agree with that because I wish our armed forces would look at our current administration and go, no, we'll listen to the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We will not listen to you. And again, you can tell because as the reporter said, once those two idiots got done talking, it was quiet as church mice. And again, that could have been an email, but for some odd reason, they wanted to, what they really wanted Hegseth to do was a show of force. He wanted to show he was tough when really he's softer than baby shit. And Taco tries to show he's tough, but he's more rounded than the Pillsbury Doughboy if you set him on 350. The point I'm getting at is here, I feel for those in the armed forces that are still currently serving. Please, thank you for your service, but it puts you in a tough spot. But you have the right not to follow orders, because keep in mind what Hegseth said. Hegseth said that he wants to get back to the military to where drill sergeants cuss you out and put their hands on you, which they can't do now because he believes that we are now the woke department. Another white man that doesn't understand the word that he uses, yet continually uses it and still confuses everybody but himself, because he'd rather admit that he would rather be prideful and be wrong. He would rather be prideful and never admit he's wrong versus doing the right thing and going, you know what? This ain't right. But again, he's from Fox and Friends. Why are we surprised? Also, what's not surprising is seeing Republicans take Democratic ideas and then try to announce them as their own. Well, Taco's doing that, announcing a deal with Pfizer and actually doing his own pharmacy discount website. I wish I could make this up.
Right now with breaking news from the White House. Just now, President Trump announcing a deal between Medicaid and pharmaceutical giant Pfizer to bring down drug prices, as well as a new website called Trump RX for Americans to buy medications. NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba joins us now. Monica, this news coming out just from the White House behind you. What do we know about the specifics with this Pfizer deal?
Well, Morgan, this is something that the White House and President Trump had been pushing for months. He signed an executive order earlier in the year, and he asked all of these drug makers to essentially see how they could lower prescription drug costs. And they had until September 29th, so yesterday, to respond to that. So we know this announcement with Pfizer that is currently being announced in the Oval Office is a pledge to lower some of those prescription drug costs. We don't know exactly which drugs are involved. They will likely talk about some of those specifics here as the CEO of Pfizer is in attendance and will offer some short remarks, we're told, after we hear from some of these other key cabinet secretaries who have been involved in this decision and in this push. And the president, in his opening remarks, said he would like other drug makers to follow suit and to bring some of those costs down, because historically the U.S. has way higher prescription drug costs than other nations. And so that has been the overall goal and aim of this administration, to try to bring them down. So Pfizer making this announcement. And again, we're more specifics and details on exactly how it will work. Morgan.
What about this so-called Trump RX website? How is it supposed to work?
So this is supposed to be a direct-to-consumer website that is named after the president. We, again, are waiting on more details on exactly how it will work and which drugs would be a part of this. Pfizer does make, of course, many different drugs, and so we are waiting to see if all of them will be available for this or just certain ones. And this is something where they are trying to cut out some of course, where we see the costs come up with some of the intermediaries, and allowing people now to just log on and order these different prescription drugs, again, through Pfizer. And we'll see which other drug makers may follow suit now that this announcement is out there. Morgan.
So the reason why I point this out, folks, the reason why I point this out, really and truly, is because, well, we're trying to figure out why in the world, because keep this in mind, guys, really and truly, keep this in mind. This is not the first time that, this is not the first time that they have literally and figuratively tried to get something done. For all those that don't remember, during the Biden administration, he was the whole thing about having Medicare and Medicaid. That Medicare would negotiate drug prices. Now, keep in mind what we also said about this. Whenever it comes to drug prices, the pharmaceutical companies and the health insurance companies always love to point the fingers at each other. Oh no, it's not me, it's them. It's not us, it's them. We don't control the drug. We don't control the drug prices. Somebody does. Because the last time I checked, health insurance companies still get money, and so do pharmaceutical companies. So obviously, somewhere down the line, somebody's getting paid. But the reason why I'm talking about that is Republicans shot that down because, again, they were being lobbied to basically kill the bill because they did not want drug prices to be negotiated on like other countries have done. But then other countries actually have more of a united healthcare, one-payer system. But I digress. But it's amazing then how Republicans shot down the idea the Democrats pushed forward, even though now Taco has sat there and said, you know what? We can negotiate prices. Pfizer's agreed. And I am announcing a website to where you can get your pharmacy drugs called Trump RX. Amazing the level of freaking gall that this idiot has to put his name on everything. Well, you can come to Trump RX, get your pharmacy prescriptions that way, when other companies are already doing that. But sir, how is this not a conflict of interest? See, the thing about Taco is he puts his name on everything, and I'm sitting there, and I cannot be the only one that sit there and I say, how is this not a conflict of interest? Because he didn't sell off his Trump organization. He still runs it through his kids, but at the same time, it's still alive and running. And I keep asking myself, how is this not a conflict of interest? In the same sense that you're basically creating a quote unquote Trump RX pharmacy website, at the same time, you're also the guy that can control the pricing. How is this not a conflict of interest? But then I have to think about it. For the simple fact of the matter is, y'all, he is backed by the same GOP that has the House and the Senate and, of course, the presidency, which allows him to basically do whatever he wants. And that alone is a scary ass thought. That also being said, guys, I apologize. My camera is a little on the wonky side, so bear with me as we get that fixed. But I also want to talk about YouTube for a second. Yes, I know, as this is going live on YouTube, Facebook, and everywhere else, we got to talk about it. Because the reason being is that YouTube had a settlement to pay $24 million to Taco, which is scary because Taco was booted off the platform because of his responses and videos regarding the January 6th insurrection where domestic terrorists tried to stop the election count, which would eventually put in President Joe Biden. That being said, he sued them saying that they were basically violating his rights. YouTube was fighting it until they said, no, we'll go ahead and settle. Now, for a lot of people that are wondering, why the frack did they settle? Well, I'll tell you why they settled. For the simple fact of the matter is, guys, they settled because YouTube, or I should say its parent company, Alphabet, wants something. Now, again, it's been rumored that YouTube, Alphabet may be trying to purchase other networks, smaller networks, to basically add to their own. But the thing that I don't get is that first, it was CBS that settled. Because, again, Paramount, which owns CBS, wanted to get Skydance. However, they had to appease the man-child. And how they appeased the man-child? By killing Late Night with Stephen Colbert and gutting 60 Minutes to where the editor of 60 Minutes had resigned. At the same time, installing a moderator that reports to the White House on every action that CBS networks actually do. Not surprising. But, again, that's just one of many. Between Paramount, now YouTube. Keep in mind, Taco tried to sue the New York Times for $15 billion, to which thankfully a judge threw that out and called it ridiculous. But here's the problem, guys. The problem is when you get these type of companies that are caving, they are giving nothing more than ammunition to Taco to basically does what he does best. If he doesn't get his way, he sues. If he doesn't win, he appeals. And if the appeal doesn't work, then he goes to his favorite court, the Supreme Court. Why? Because it's tailored for him. It's conservative leaning. They are all too happy to do the bidding of the one that got them pushed through. That is all I'm saying. So yes, follow the money because YouTube has caved, which means they want something and they want the golden fat ass calf's blessing to do it. I'm just saying, follow the money. But speaking of things to follow, guys, unfortunately, we did have a lot of mass shootings that did happen this past weekend. My goodness, we actually had 6, I believe. One shooting in Michigan at a Mormon church that killed 4 worshipers, where the guy actually set the church on fire. One in North Carolina, I think one in North Carolina where a shooter had killed 3 people. Another one in Louisiana where, again, a shooting had occurred there. Raleigh, North Carolina, there was a shooting that occurred there. In Texas, there was a shooting there that killed 2 people. And I think, and then finally, another shooting that happened in New Orleans where, again, 1 person was killed. So you got to think, this was over a weekend, right? What did we just say? Michigan, North Carolina, Louisiana, that's wrong. Michigan, 2 in North Carolina, 1 in Louisiana, 1 in Texas. Jesus, 6 over the course of 48 hours. Now, you would think after 6 shootings that occurred over a weekend, this would be where Taco could literally sit there and say, you know what? I'm going to deploy the National Guard. Where does he deploy the National Guard? Not North Carolina, not Louisiana, not Texas, Portland, Oregon.
Portland appears to be the latest city that will see federal troops on its streets. Trump says he's sending troops, authorizing full force if necessary to handle what he calls domestic terrorists. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek accused Trump of abusing his authority by ordering troops into a city she says is doing just fine on its own. The directive comes after the president signed an executive order to place National Guard troops in Memphis, Tennessee, and deploy troops in both Los Angeles and here in Washington, D.C. For more, let's bring in our Melissa Adon. Melissa, how soon are we looking at these federal boots on the ground, and what are they going to be doing?
Exactly, Elizabeth. At this point, there's no clear timeline, right? We do know that Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered those 200 troops just yesterday to be deployed under federal authority, but they don't have that exact timeline nor exactly where they will be deployed. What we do know is that President Trump has asked that the troops protect the ICE facilities. But look, Elizabeth, this is not going to go down without a fight, right? Already, the state and city of Oregon have sued the Trump administration over this. And look, Portland's mayor and the governor of Oregon are vehemently against the mobilization of troops to the state and the city. Already, Governor Tina Kotek over the weekend reaching out to the White House, she questioned the move and she stated that, look, there is no national security threat in Portland. And she says their communities are safe. Elizabeth?
There were already some protests there over the weekend too, Melissa. Is that right?
Exactly, Elizabeth. So when you keep that in mind, look at the example, right? This is what went down on Sunday. We saw that there was a march in downtown Portland. Police tell us there were no issues. Then in South Portland, outside of an ICE building, that's where crowds moved in and around the building at one moment. A car was surrounded by crowds. Officers there say they saw some clashes between the protest of opposing views. They did have arrests there, one of a 17-year-old for assault and another 38-year-old man also arrested for assault later in the evening. But Portland police officers saying that, look, there was no use of force during either of those protests by their officers, and that they mentioned that the earlier downtown march was peaceful, as you see here in this video on our screen. So it is something to note that this was just Sunday, and this is how the city of Portland is reacting.
So again, I just talked about the fact that there were 6 shootings that occurred over the weekend in multiple areas. Yet Taco, because again, wants to go to another Democratic city to basically insert National Guards, and the excuse is to defend ICE facilities. This is why I sit there and say what Taco has been doing has been a load of crap. Because he wanted to go to Memphis, saying that Memphis is a war zone. Memphis is a lot of things. It's not a war zone. At the same time, you don't calm violence by sending in armed forces. You actually tackle them by sending them resources. And again, with Portland, Oregon, as they sat there and said before, outside of the fact that it's mostly grunge and flannel, and I'm just stereotyping, and I apologize, but they don't have the same level of crime that negates needing armed servicemen there. So Taco, again, following the 2025 playbook, going after Democratic cities and occupying them with armed forces, and then when the numbers are down, or at least to where he believes they're down, takes a victory lap. I solved the problem that I caused. Love me is what he's doing. But he's doing what every dictator does. You start the fire, then you want to put it out, and then you throw away the matches because now you're saying that I basically put the fire out. No, what you're doing is you're occupying every Democratic city because, again, you're trying to show force. You're trying to instill fear. At the same time, you are giving your Gestapo ICE a reason to go in these cities because your Nazi right-hand man, Stephen Miller, still has a quota he wants to fix. But again, I digress. But staying on Taco for a second, because remember he sat there and gave Pam Bondi, his lapdog AG, that I want you to pursue and go after all my enemies? And we all thought that he shouldn't. Well, apparently Pam Bondi has started. Latest victim, former FBI director James Comey, and he's not the only one.
More potential prosecutions as former FBI Director James Comey faces 2 federal charges. Just days after the president called on the attorney general to prosecute a list of his political enemies, the DOJ secured an indictment against Comey. Now, the president says, quote, there will be others. ABC's Catherine Faulders is in Washington with more. Catherine, the president said yesterday that he would think the DOJ is investigating former FBI Director Christopher Wray. Do we know if that's happening or if it's in the works somehow?
Well, we don't, but it's certainly possible, given what we've seen, at least the track record of this administration and the Department of Justice in terms of targeting people they perceive to be their political adversaries. But it's worth pointing out that Trump's comments came after we saw the FBI Director Kash Patel go on Fox News and clarify what Trump exactly said here. So Trump made these comments as he was claiming that over 200 FBI agents were among those in the crowd on January 6th. Trump went on to falsely suggest they were helping that mob that was on the Capitol, at the Capitol that day on January 6th. Patel then said, the FBI director then said that no, actually, they weren't doing that. They were called in after this riot on the Hill, on Capitol Hill began, but then went on to blame a failure in leadership at the time. Of course, we know who the FBI director, was at the time, Chris Wray. So then he went on to blame the leadership at the time. So that's where all of this is stemming from. So it's quite possible, but we have no reason to believe that there is some active criminal investigation into the former FBI director at this point.
Catherine, what are you watching for next?
It's a good question, Diane. There's lots going on here. We've heard Trump name, obviously, all these people he perceives to be his political adversaries, the New York Attorney General, Tish James. We've heard Adam Schiff, the senator from California, for example. We know that there are active investigations going on into them. We know that Comey, for example, the former FBI director, Jim Comey, will appear for a hearing and arraignment next month. So there's lots to watch on all of these fronts. Now, whether they get anywhere, whether they get to indictments, for example, we also have John Bolton to watch for, the former national security advisor whose home and office was raided last month, I should say. So still a lot more to come on all of these fronts.
So it's not surprising that, again, Taco is basically saying he gave his marching orders. He sat there and said, I want my enemies prosecuted, because he himself believes that he was prosecuted, which, again, he wasn't. If anybody doesn't remember, Taco is a convicted felon, 43-count indictment, was found guilty of massive mortgage fraud, also guilty of being a sexual predator, not just because of Epstein, but from Jean Carroll as well. So Taco can sit there and say all he wants to these being prosecuted, but it's all his wounds are self-inflicted. That being said, James Comey is not the only person. He actually wants to go after Fani Willis. Keep in mind, Fani Willis, the former DA in Georgia, who was ready to bring an election interference case against Taco before he was president. Keep in mind, she and her team were at the ready to prosecute him because they did have a case that he interfered in the election in Georgia. Although the phone call to the Secretary of State where he asked for 11,580 votes should have been damning enough. But for all those that don't remember, because Taco sat there and used his white privilege and said, hey, I'm running a campaign. There's no way I can actually do this because me going to this case will hurt my campaign. He wasn't the president. He was a private citizen, which meant that his ass really should have showed up in court. But thanks to his legal team, it got pushed, it got pushed, it got pushed. And then it was coming out that Fani Willis and a prosecutor on her team may have had an improper relationship. This led to another case to where Miss Willis had to defend herself in the witness stand, making Trump prosecution look dumb as hell, which eventually did get thrown out. However, the judge sat there and told Miss Willis that either your prosecution or you, either your lead prosecutor or you have to go off the case. The lead prosecutor signed off the case, and eventually, as we all know, Taco somehow became president again. And just like being president, it's almost like being baptized. All of his current court cases just washed away. And Miss Willis was eventually taken off as a prosecutor. And again, well, she was taken off. She's trying to appeal that now. But the election interference case is all but dead. Now, again, we all know how Trump feels about strong, intelligent, beautiful black women. He can't stand them because his win-loss record is pretty much 0 and 5 at this point. But he has directed the Justice Department to look into the travel records for the former DA. Why? Because again, he is weaponizing the DOJ to go after all his quote-unquote enemies. And Fani Willis was not an enemy. She was simply doing her job. And what is crazy about this is coming from a man who is president, found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records over a decade of years, for falsifying business records for his hush money payments to a porn star, found guilty of mortgage fraud for decades for basically inflating his properties for bigger loans. And now what is he doing now that he's installed himself back in the presidency? He is literally and figuratively going after his political enemies for no other reason outside to say he can. And that alone is an effing problem. But if Fani Willis wants to defend herself, I'm pretty sure the Trump administration has no problem going to court with her because she is more than ready to go to court with him. And I hope it's a public event because that's going to be the smoothest ass whooping that I've ever seen a black man do to a white man since the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Just saying. Moving right along, though, guys. Do you like movies? Do you like anime? Do you like movies that are made overseas? You're going to get pissed off because Mr. Tariff Man Taco says that there is a 100% tariff on movies made outside the United States.
And President Trump is announcing a new tariff that would impact Hollywood's bottom line. The president posted on social media that he's imposing a 100% tariff on movies made outside of the U.S., claiming, quote, the movie-making business has been stolen from the United States of America by other countries, just like stealing candy from a baby. Trump also is taking a swipe at California Governor Gavin Newsom, saying California has been hard hit by films made abroad.
So here's the problem. Because a lot of people are going, well, I mean, it's movies made abroad. If you're like me and you enjoy anime and anime movies and manga and things of that nature, that's not made here in the U.S. It's made overseas, mostly Japan, China, and other studios. What would happen is that him putting 100% tariffs on those movies will make the prices in those movies, because tariffs aren't paid by companies. They're not paid by anybody but the consumer, because businesses have to keep their profits. And if you want something, you got to pay more. And again, this hurts the anime and foreign films areas and also American movies, because if your American movie has foreign investors, tariffs, which means that everything goes up, prices go up. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. It never ceases to amaze me that of all the things that Taco's tried to do, his tariffs have only shown one thing. They cause more destruction than anything else. Because historically, tariffs have never helped. They have just been a Republican tactic that has led to destroy economies. And the last thing you want to do, Taco, is tick off the anime manga group. There's a lot more of them that you think. And trust me, in large numbers, they have made several corporations and governments think twice. Don't believe me? Ask India. That being said, I do want to move on to this story where, again, a Michigan mom. Imagine that your son, before I tell the story, before I play the video, imagine that your son, right, sees the person has a gun at school, disarms said person, makes the gun, disarms him, takes the gun out, bullets and everything, and does it in such a safe manner. Your son is a hero, but is now expelled from school. Yes, that did happen. Yes, the mother has questions, and I don't freaking blame her.
What am I to do? He's 11 years old, 7th grade, never been in trouble before.
A Lansing mom is pleading for her son to be reinstated in school after she says he was expelled for possession of a weapon.
They kicked him out of school for the whole year. Online schools are honoring their decision, nor did they provide us a different resource or a different avenue to go.
Savitra McClurkin says her son is being punished for disarming and dismantling a gun that another student brought to the Dwight Rich School of the Arts back in May, and for not speaking up about it right away.
He didn't want to implicate himself in it, nor did he want to tell on the person that actually brought the firearm. Because he knows firearms aren't supposed to be in school.
He was able to disarm and disassemble the gun because of his hunting background. McClurkin says in the moment, her son was scared and thought he was helping the other students around him.
It's devastating because he's a bright kid, and all he wants to do is be a kid. And as a parent, I feel like I may be more devastated than him.
At Thursday night's board meeting, the Lansing School District declined to comment on the issue, even after McClurkin took the stand during public comment.
They are setting my child up for failure. They're setting him up to be a statistic. And I've been doing everything in my will and my power to keep him from that. After 180 days, they may or may not reinstate him. So then what?
Crazy, isn't it? I mean, this is a child, right? Keep in mind, a child disarmed the student, disassembled the weapon, possibly averting a shooting, because we don't know what would happen with that student that had a gun. And her son was able to do that. And his reward is that he got expelled. His reward is he got expelled. And that the school district will not give an answer. This is the part where they said, where I love that it said, I love how they said this, because it was also said in the article. Let me read this word for word. Quote unquote, disciplinary action would have not been warranted for disarming a student, the district said. Please know, however, the safety of our students and staff remains our paramount interest, and decisions will be made in accordance with that principle. That's bullshit. If my child was able to get a gun away from someone who may or may not have intentions of doing something with that firearm, if my child was able to get that far away from them, disassemble the weapon, I would be in that school and they would have to call the police on me. I'm just being honest. They had to call the police on me. I would not leave until an answer was given. Why is my child? Because he didn't bring the gun to school. He disarmed the individual that did have the gun, and he disassembled it to make it inoperable. If he was white, and I'll go ahead and say it, folks, if he was white, he would get Charlie Kirk attention right now. If he was white. If he was white. If he was white, oh, he'd be everywhere. Fox News couldn't stop talking about him. Even Charlie Kirk's wife, who, I guess she's done grieving now, is now doing a relationship app. He'd be everywhere. He would be plastered everywhere. He'd be seen as a hero. But because, and again, I'm just pointing this out, because he's a black child that doesn't fit the stereotype, that has not been in trouble, that all he did was something that could have possibly saved his life and others, and he's being punished for it. What are we telling our children here, guys? What are we telling our black kids? We're telling our black kids, hey, you can be whatever you want to be. You have great potential. Do not let what others see on you as a as they see it as an abomination, it's not an abomination. Black is beautiful. And yet at the same time, this young man did something heroic and brave, and that honestly a lot of adults wouldn't do. And he did it. And this school district, the Lansing School District, everybody from the superintendent up to the director should be ashamed. Because I don't blame the mom. I want an answer. Because you didn't sit there and say what happened to the student with the gun. You took him into custody, and then what? But you're going to expel the student that may have possibly saved multiple lives that day. Oh yeah, we're following that story because again, that's bullshit. You're punishing the wrong child, is what I'm getting at. But again, we'll follow that story as developments come out. Last two stories, guys, before we get to our feel good segment. I cannot stress this enough. Whenever it comes to Republicans, they have the House, they have the Senate. You have a right-leaning Supreme Court and the presidency. Republicans have total control over Congress. And this keeps coming back up. Trump administration asked the Supreme Court to rule on its plan to end birthright citizenship. Remember when I sat there and said that if Trump doesn't like something, that all he's got to sit there and say is, we're going to take it to the Supreme Court? Him going to the Supreme Court is like the Packers going back to Lambeau Field on Super Bowls. You have the home field advantage. And they do. You literally, I'm telling you right now, only 3 people, Kajani Brown Jackson, Sotomayor, the other individual, her name escapes me at the moment. I was trying to talk and think at the same time. But those 3 individuals are the only ones who are considered liberal or progressive. Liberal and progressive. Oh, Elena Kagan. Sorry. So let me apologize. Let me give them all their proper due. Supreme Court Justice Kajani Brown Jackson. Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor. Supreme Court Justice Ellen Kagan. All of these individuals are basically considered liberal or progressive. Now, Amy Coney Barron, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Uncle Tom. I'm sorry. That was wrong. No, it wasn't wrong. Uncle Tom, Clarence Thomas. At the same time, you have Chief Justice John Roberts. And of course, who could forget Stephen Breyer? That's your current group. And this is why I sit there and I say, I apologize. That's Supreme Court Justice Samuel A. Alito. I apologize. But this is John Roberts. That's Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett. 6 conservative-leaning judges. I cannot, above all else, say that Trump has home field advantage. And that's what frightens me all the time, guys. It frightens me all the time. Because whenever Trump talks about, I'm going to go to the Supreme Court, I have a fear that 9 times out of 10, his case will be won. You know why? Because they've already proven that they've done it before. They did it with Roe versus Wade. They did it with the college acceptance portion of the affirmative action. I'm just saying. They're now trying to go after Haberfeld versus Algis, which is for same-sex marriages. They're trying to go after that too. So the point I'm getting at here is Taco going to the Supreme Court as it is right now is the Packers going to Lambeau Field for Super Bowl Sunday. They have home field advantage. At the same time, it is very possible that they could reverse Amendment 14 of birthright citizenship. It's very possible and scary. But our last story before we get to our feel-good segment, guys, Amazon again caught with their hand in the cookie jar, paying one of the biggest fines in the world for duping their customers into purchasing Amazon Prime memberships. $2.5 billion and not one person in jail.
We're also tracking news out of the Federal Trade Commission, which says Amazon has agreed to pay $2.5 billion to settle a lawsuit over what the FTC says were deceptive methods to sign people up for Prime subscriptions and make it difficult for them to cancel. Christine Romans is here. And Christine, the settlement comes as a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, Tom, opening arguments were just this past Tuesday in a case filed against Amazon during the Biden administration. But in that surprise move today, the FTC says Amazon decided to settle. The FTC sued Amazon, saying it had duped customers into subscribing to its $139 a year Prime membership, and then it made it too hard to cancel. A judge still needs to approve this deal, but if it goes through, here's what it could mean for you. An estimated 35 million customers with valid claims for unintentional enrollment. They're going to get up to $51 a piece. Amazon would also have to make Prime easier to cancel from now on. In a statement, the company said it has always followed the law and works hard to make it clear and simple for customers to both sign up or cancel their Prime membership, Tom.
Yeah, we're calling bullshit on that. Yeah, we're going to call bullshit. We are going to call bullshit. The reason why we're going to call bullshit, guys, is because anybody that's ever dealt with Amazon, again, unfortunately, we all have to, because Amazon, unfortunately, has retailed themselves into the e-commerce version of Walmart. Some people, unfortunately, have to use it. But think about that for a second. You were caught duping people into purchasing an Amazon Prime membership that they did not need at $139 a person. And again, this whole thing is that 35 million customers out of a $2.5 billion settlement with the Federal Trade Commission, that 35 million customers could possibly receive $51 a piece. Here's my thing. Why not give them back the $139 that they spent for the Prime membership? $51 seems like a hell of a cop-out. And at the same time, guys, not one Amazon executive, because in my mind, getting duped into buying something and at the same time it's not being addressed, usually that means that somebody's going to wind up going to jail. And yet, another company, and we should have known this because Boeing has been putting faulty planes up in the air and not one executive has gone to jail. They change out CEOs like most people change tires. And every one of those CEOs have gotten a golden parachute on the way out. Amazon has just paid one of the biggest fines in FTC history, and not one individual will ever see the inside of a jail. Only in America. Only in America where you can be an executive, where you can do almost everything but murder and never see a day in jail as long as you pay a fine. And that right there is completely and utterly messed up. But we're going to go and move on to our feel-good segment, guys, because usually on How the Frack We Got Here, we do talk about a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes make you lose your faith in humanity, but hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow is Thursday. We will leave you guys out on some good vibrations. Hopefully the next story will do that, because I keep on talking about how the youth need to be mentored, how you usually have somebody that wants to do an impact in a young man's life. And hopefully, and in this case, for the next story I'm about to show, this man did exactly that.
Welcome back. I know. I was like, no, but they couldn't even reach up. Some of them were so tiny.
I was in the wings trying to help him. I was like, I got it. She was, oh yeah, no, there was no get. They were getting those dolls.
But now we're going to Minneapolis. Rebecca Jarvis is there. She's got an inspiring story. Hey, Rebecca.
Hey, George. Yeah, it's great to see you guys. This is such an honor to tell you about this story. The Southside Red Bears are here. They're a sports league here in Minneapolis, and their coach, Coach Mukwa Roberts, is truly dedicated to the indigenous youth of this community and this team, both on and off the court. We're going to chat in just a minute here, but first I want you to take a look at this. Southside Red Bears coach Mukwa Roberts has built a community and safe space for Indigenous youth through sports over the last almost 2 decades.
We pretty much take on any kid that wants to play and do something fun and positive instead of being out on the streets.
An assistant coaching role for his son's team grew into a passion. Now he's the Red Bears director, coaching and fundraising to ensure every kid can play.
AAU basketball can be very expensive. We try to make it free for all the kids.
His impact larger than basketball. Coach Mukwa has become a mentor for Red Bears players of all ages.
Being with Red Bears family
has made me a better person. When the kids feel special and they feel love, it brightens up their life. And at that point, it becomes deeper than basketball.
I'm like a dad or like an uncle to a lot of these kids. To me, it's like a family thing.
For Amarin Chamberlain, Coach Mukwa has been like a father figure.
I'm really thankful for just him introducing me to like the sports as like an outlook, like not being in the streets. So I really appreciate him for just doing that.
He never missed a beat. He was at every game, made sure everything was possible.
And he's built a haven to celebrate Indigenous culture.
Especially as a kid with disabilities. It's amazing doing things that I never thought I would be able to do. And it's all thanks to my coach.
Thank you, Coach Mukwa.
Thank you, Coach Mukwa, for being there for me.
Thank you, Mukwa. You're a great coach, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach Mike. I really appreciate everything you've done for me. That being said, I love you.
I really appreciate you being a father figure that you are for Amarin, Red Bears family.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Coach Mukwa Roberts. We are here with the man himself and all the people in this community who you are supporting. You've got players as young as 5 years old here today. You have the drum circle, former players who are now part of this. And Coach Roberts, you started all of this as an assistant coach. You were coaching your son at the time. It became almost 20 years later, your passion, the thing you are most dedicated to. Why?
The kids, you know, we live kind of in a rough neighborhood. So, you know, we need something positive for them to fall back on. And so, you know, it's expanded since I started. So, I mean, it's a great thing to see. It's a great thing to accomplish, and I'm proud of all these kids.
As you should be. And you should be proud of yourself as well. You've made such an impact here, and I've loved getting to spend my morning with all of you. I have a question for you guys. Do you like the Minnesota Timberwolves? Who here? All right, who here knows Julius Randle, three-time NBA All-Star? Is Julius Randle in the house? Oh my goodness, it's Julius Randle! How are you? It's so good to see you. Okay, Julius, you heard about this team and you wanted to be here this morning. How great is it to see them and see their spirit today?
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing what you guys, what Coach, what you're doing is amazing for these kids. You know, I was once you guys, and just to see the great that you're doing in the community for, you know, all of these guys and girls is amazing. So I'm extremely happy and blessed to be here.
And I'm told you have a little surprise for everybody here, Julius.
Yes, I do. On behalf of, you know, my Skechers, here we go. My Skechers basketball team and I, you know, we're proud to donate $10,000 worth of Skechers basketball shoes to you guys. So now you can play in the same thing that I play in.
Everybody is behaving, Julius.
Yes, they're doing a great job.
They know we're on Good Morning America, and we appreciate you guys behaving. But how awesome is this?
Excited.
Yes. Thank you, Julius, for being here. Thank you for this very generous donation.
Absolutely.
I also have one more surprise. You guys in the feeling for a good surprise for Coach Mukwa Roberts here? All right, one more surprise. You guys captured the attention of Envoy Medical Corporation. They are a local company here, and they wanted to give you, Coach Roberts, and you, Team Southside Red Bears, $10,000. There you go. It's yours. That's your check.
Thank you.
How does it feel?
Blessed.
Blessed.
Yeah, we're blessed.
You're a blessing.
Thank you.
You're a blessing, Coach Roberts. What are you going to do with this $10,000, you think?
New uniforms.
New uniforms, you guys. All right, everybody made their signs for Coach Mukwa this morning. You can hold them high. They have thank yous. They have special messages. I am so honored to be here with all of you to share this story. And guys, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good here in Minneapolis this morning, and I hope you're feeling good wherever you're watching.
And again, I always want to give respect because, like I said, I love the fact that that's what saves communities. That's what saves the youth. And it's not just, and it doesn't always have to be sports. Don't get me wrong. Sports is a wonderful outlet, but other things can be done too. I mean, you can do more than sports. You can introduce chess. You can introduce video games, coding, programming. I can keep going down the list. But when you introduce those type of things into an environment, into after-school programs, Head Start programs, things of that nature, it transforms towns, neighborhoods, and basically it saves kids. It really, truly does. And I want to give that man all the respect in the world. And also, if I ever win the lottery, I just want that big ass check. I want to be able to take that big ass check to the bank and say, I would love to deposit this. Which I know a lot of people are going, that's not how it works. Will, leave me be. I want to live my dream. I want to walk into a bank and say, here's my big ass check. I would like to deposit it, please. Let me have my dream. That being said, that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is up and live. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I apologize at the bottom. It was actually showing my other show, the Get It Podcast. Still want you to watch that. But for the rest of us, please follow How the Frack We Got Here on all socials, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Trying to update those pages, guys, but work with me. I'm just a one-man operation here. But thank you all who shared, who commented, who talked. I appreciate all of it. I really, truly do. I just ask that you like, that you share, that you subscribe, turn your notifications on, because whenever we do go live, I do want to be able to keep the conversation going. That being said, other shameless promotions, definitely check out APR TV. Why? Because How the Frack can be seen on APR TV. They can be seen on the Roku Channel Store app or the Amazon Fire TV. But definitely check out APR TV or always press record to where you watch shows like How the Frack We Got Here and multiple ones, because you will not be disappointed in the programming and the content that is there. Speaking of content and programming, BlurStation.com. You've heard me talk about this for 2 years now, guys. This is the streaming service built for us, by us, with content that has us in mind. You can go to BlurStation.com and see what we have there as far as movies, television, anime, shows, and that nature goes. It's $10.99 a month to stream BlurStation. $10.99 a month. You cannot beat that with a stick, and BlurStation can be streamed on all smart devices. Go ahead and check that out. Trust me, you will not be disappointed. Also, runforoffice.org. I keep saying this, guys, the midterms are next year. Democrats hopefully will not wait until the midterms of next year to finally start talking to people. Hopefully they're hitting the ground now. But for all those that feel the need to serve, whether it's locally or nationally, definitely check out runforoffice.org. It'll tell you the process how you can get your name on the ballot, hopefully run and win, because we keep saying, guys, so many times, we do need to change the way things are being done here. Taco wants a third term. His people are trying to find a way to do that. However, it takes people to get in these offices and actually change things. And you don't have to do so from the federal location. You can definitely start small from your city or home state and go from there. But we definitely need people to step in, because we do not want a third episode of Taco being president, or just the Republicans running roughshod over us. And I know that may seem one-sided, but the last time Democrats had power, I didn't feel like it was the end of the world. Just saying. But definitely check out runforoffice.org. And like I said, guys, How the Frack We Got Here can be found on YouTube. Literally type in How the Frack We Got Here podcast, and you see me pop up. And my hair that looks like it's in between locticians. Bear with me. I'm going to eventually get that fixed. But again, if you'll just definitely go to youtube.com, type in How the Frack We Got Here, and my mug will pop up. Like, share, and subscribe, guys, and I would certainly more than appreciate it. My other show, which is more focused toward video game news of the week with myself, Tafari TV, and Show Guy Joe, called the Get Bit Podcast, literally the GB Podcast. Type that into YouTube as well, and we pop up that way, guys. And, of course, like, share, and follow if you are into video games, anime news, and things of that nature, because trust me, we definitely have a lot this week to talk about. So definitely you'll join us here as we go live on Fridays, 8:30-ish, usually. Now, as for myself, guys, again, myself, Black_Spartan615 with my other IG page. You can like and follow me there. I usually carry conversations. Just don't make it weird. I'm going to start getting to blocking people. At the same time, guys, don't doom scroll. Please go out, enjoy the weather, and stay hydrated. Check on your people. Call or text them. Get some sunshine. Touch some grass. Because you know what? It always feels like doom and gloom, but eventually it's going to work out. But for right now, protect your peace, find your strength, breathe, relax. We'll all get through it. That being said, the last thing about the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you all the information allowed to make up your own mind. But we do provide a logical perspective with it alongside it. we actually do better when we're progressive. We move forward. We try to right our wrongs by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Black woman Supreme Court justice, electing our first Black woman as the federal board of governors. Hopefully one day electing our first Black woman be called Madam President. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go up at our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other. And I promise we will get through this. Live long and prosper, guys. Peace.